Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Joel Fleischman Happy Hour podcast, episode number 75. And I have given up alcohol for Lent. And we have Chief Tom Bishop here from the village of Kewaskum.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so he is on duty, so we are going to share a Blue Door soda. We make our own soda, Tom.
Ooh.
And we have Camel Sport Cream, we have Black Cherry,
Oh, this is exciting.
we have root beer, and we have the only blue juice. And the label
Blue
on that
juice.
says, this very drink is part of the mission of Drexel Building Supply. Supply happiness. Go ahead, drink till your soul fills with happiness.
This is great.
Come and get it at Blue Door Coffee Company. We serve it there every day.
I'll take that root beer that you have right there.
Yeah, let me know
If
what
I
you
can do
think.
that one.
I'm gonna go
I know
Black
normally you
Cherry.
have a beer, so I'll have a root beer, and that'll be close enough.
Close enough. No alcohol for Lent, so far so good.
Very good.
Giving up alcohol for Lent would have been much harder in my 20s and 30s, but much easier as I age. What do you think?
Very good.
Sip, yeah, it's
Yeah.
legit, isn't it?
It's good.
Black Cherry is good. It is good with Bacardi too, for you those over 21 listening in.
But not during Lent.
Not for me,
No.
not this year. So episode number 75, famous 75s.
Yeah, Forrest Gregg, former Packer player and coach. Howie Long. There's not really a lot of baseball guys out there that wore 75, so it's
Kind of a forgotten guy, Forrest Gregg,
Yeah.
former head coach.
Yep.
I think Barry Zito wore 75.
Barry Zito did. Yeah, he's the most famous baseball guy.
Yeah,
There you go.
there
Look
you
at
go.
that.
Hey!
That's been
There you
a
go.
long time since we had a
Oakland
guest come
A's,
in and just
yeah.
say,
Winning the podcast, dude.
Yeah.
I'm taking my hat off. Mad respect.
Yep.
So let's frame this up a little bit. Chief came up to me. We worked out together at Tri Fitness.
Every morning.
Most 5 a.m.s.
Yeah.
Most 5 you're dedicated.
I know it doesn't look like it, but
Is that
I'm
your
there
shtick?
at 5
Is that your
a.m.
shtick? Is that what you tell people?
A little bit, yeah. Like I do get up at
I think you
4:30.
do great. You were doing 30-inch box jumps today. I noticed.
I was pushing it a little bit, yeah.
That's awesome.
I did well. But yeah, I wish I looked more like you, Joel, but this is what God's given me to work with. I'm afraid of what I look like if I didn't work out every day, probably. That's probably what
That's
it
how it
is.
goes, right?
You know?
I do think, and not that you do that, but for those listening, you can't outrun your fork.
That's true.
Like I'm looking at him like he outruns his fork, but it took me years of working out to realize like you can work out all you want, and it's actually a trick almost. Hey, I work out so I can have a donut, but it's actually you're not going to get very far ahead. You only burn 400 calories in a workout. Donut 600 calories. You're already behind the 8 ball.
And my wife always says the same thing. You can't outrun a bad diet.
Yeah.
And
Same way. Can't outrun the fork.
so actually, I started doing.
And not that you don't look great. You look amazing.
Well, thank you. I
So,
appreciate
yeah,
it.
sorry.
But I started doing Weight Watchers at the beginning of the year, and because I needed to try something different, and I'm down 10 pounds since the beginning of the year.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, there it is. Well, that was a good full circle there.
Yeah.
Great. So you approached me, I think, one day at class, after class, before class at 5 a.m. It all kind of blends in together, and said, "Hey, can I poke your brain on leadership sometime?"
Yeah.
I think that's how this started. And I'm like, you know what? It'd be great to come on our podcast.
I recommended a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
but here we are doing a podcast.
Having a
instead,
soda.
so.
Yeah. So a little backstory on yourself.
Yeah, so I'm obviously the police chief in Kewaskum, but I grew up in Waupun, graduated Waupun High School, and initially I didn't go to college right away. I took some time off and actually worked at a lumberyard of all places. So,
Where'd you work?
Stock Building Supply in Fond du Lac.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Were
Yeah.
you there when it closed?
No, just
See what I
before.
did there? Yeah. Yep.
Nope. I was gone before that, but I put 4 or 5 years in.
Yeah. Very
there.
good yard for a time in North
Yeah,
Fond du Lac
and
there. Really nice.
I really enjoyed working there, but as the days went on, I really wanted to go in the law enforcement, and obviously that wasn't a track to get there. So I went back to UW Fond du Lac, got an associate's degree, then I went to UW Oshkosh for a bachelor degree, and then I got hired in Kewaskum as a police officer in 2007, and then went back to Marion for my master's program and got
Marion
promoted to
tie-in.
chief.
Marcus is
Oh yeah, yeah.
former coach at Marion.
Yeah. So and then I got promoted to chief.
Yeah. How long have you been chief?
11 years.
11 years.
Yeah.
We probably got to go down that avenue, right, Marcus?
Oh, yeah.
What's your first question about being a local chief for 11 years?
Yeah, I mean, I guess over the years, how has, I guess, just responsibilities changed? Is it everything kind of stayed the same that way, or I mean, has that kind of changed over time now?
Like my responsibilities, or
Yeah.
just
Yours as a chief, I mean, has it always been pretty steady with what you have to do, or over time have you been able to divvy out things to your team and,
yeah, I've been.
Further back, let's go back a little bit on
Yeah.
that question. How many people are on your force?
We have eight full time.
8 full time.
Members, yep.
Okay, so you lead all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then is there any like dispatchers or?
Nope, but we
Yeah,
have our volunteer auxiliary officers that you'll see at parades and football games
And
and
how
stuff.
many people is that?
About 15.
And they're voluntary.
Correct.
They don't get paid at all.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well, I gotta quit picking on them then.
And then and then we have 4 crossing guards that are also employees of the police
Okay.
department.
Okay, so that's all under your umbrella.
Correct.
So back to Marcus's question: in 11 years, what have you seen? As your responsibilities, or overall, or even culturally, as a little town, how has it evolved?
Yeah, there's kind of a lot there. I mean, I've been blessed that we've been able to grow the department. So when I became the chief, we had 7 full-time and 2 or 3 part-time officers.
Oh, and for perspective, this is a town of how many people?
4,300.
4,300 village residents, and then we do have a main thoroughfare. It's where I live, and that gets how many people a day through?
Yeah, Highway 45 gets about 18,000 cars a day.
Right,
So
18,000 cars, even though it's a town of 4,300.
Correct. If you compare that to like Campbellsport, where obviously we are now, a village of probably half the size of Kewaskum, I think the busiest intersection in Campbellsport has 3,000 cars a day.
They wish.
And well, that's according to the DOT.
Yeah, no,
right?
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
And
Seems like us.
and Kewaskum's got 16 to 18,000 on
Right.
Highway 45.
6
so
times as much, right?
Yeah,
as far as
it's
math.
it's a lot busier. Yep.
Yeah, right. So back to the question. Let you answer it.
Yeah, so we had less staff. We had 7 full-time, 3 part-time, and part-timers, it wasn't what it used to be. It used to have individuals who really wanted to work nights and weekends, and they did their full-time job. They'd come by us part-time. Officer John Thorne's a great example. He was a wonderful police officer, and he was part-time for decades at our department.
Long John.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I had a few
Everybody
years
knows
with him.
John.
Yeah, right. Well, 6'8",
Oh yeah,
at
probably, yeah.
least. And
Booming
presented-
voice.
And presented himself as about 8 foot.
Yeah, if you went to a bar fight, he's the guy you wanted to walk in with
Yeah,
because
for
he just
sure.
boomed his voice and the music just stopped.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, true.
But eventually, part-timers, they didn't want to do the night shifts and the weekends. So it was a pretty big budget battle at the time with the village to add a full-time position and eliminate our part-time officers. But we did it, and we're better for it. And then we were able to create a lieutenant's position to have a second in command to take some of those responsibilities off my desk a little bit, which Chief Knable never had a lieutenant. He was the only admin staff. So that has helped a lot. Really, the duties have changed because of staffing issues more than anything, and I think we're all experiencing a lot of that. Law enforcement is getting hit hard all over the country for lack of people going into law enforcement.
And getting out. We've hired so many good people from the police force.
Yep.
In the last 5 years. It's unbelievable, right, Marcus? How many people have come
Even
from?
last year and a half.
Last year and a
3 or
half.
4.
Yeah, really since COVID especially, yeah. And just all basically the same reason, just burnout.
Yeah,
It's unfortunate. God only made so many
Yeah.
enforcement people.
Yeah, they're burned out because without the staff, everybody's overworked. And then, just perception in the media and things of that nature have made a lot of people say, why do this when I can go make as much money or more doing X, Y,
Do
or
you
Z?
feel in 11 years, which is a long time but not a long time, do you feel the respect for, and again, we're in a small conservative town, you think the respect for law enforcement in your time frame being a law enforcement has changed?
Nationwide, yes.
Locally?
Not in Kewaskum.
You haven't
We
seen
have a
that.
fantastic community that supports us
Right. So you haven't
through
seen
and
that.
through. I have not, personally, no, it has not
Right.
been hit Kewaskum that
Right.
way.
Okay, cool. How do you, I have a question, just like picking your brain on what you do. And if you, again, right now we're just having a conversation and you wanted to pick my brain, so please throw it back as well. That's kind of all part of the podcast. How do you let it go at night, right? I mean, you see things that people shouldn't have to see. You deal with, domestic violence issues and accident scenes and deaths, right? Like things that people probably shouldn't have to see and deal with. And then you are in a small town, so then you're like, well, I know the consequences of what I just saw. Can't really talk about it, but I know what's happening. My friends and family are involved that I know personally, right? I'm sure, or I have a relationship with, but now things are happening that I think are happening, or I'm sure are happening, but I can't really say anything. How do you deal with that all? How do you compartmentalize that?
Yeah, it can be tough, be quite honest. I mean, like you said, death scenes and stuff, or domestics or child sexual assault, where somehow I'm connected to that family because I also live in Kewaskum, right? Like, I live there. My kids go to school there. So there's definitely some overlap there that can be challenging at times. I think just having a good family life at home is huge. I have a very strong faith life that I mean, I'm an elder at our church. I think having that family around me as well, is to have that support, is huge. And it's actually, if I can go back for a second, it's interesting. I think when I applied to be the police chief and I got hired, I had to do another psychological eval. So you do one when you first get hired. There was another one when I was getting promoted to police chief, and the psychologist said, "Do you attend a church?" And I thought it was kind of an odd question at the time. And I said, we go to a community church, which is based out of West Bend. Now we have a site outside Kewaskum as well. And I said, yeah, we just started going to this church, and it's good, you know. And I didn't have a huge faith life before that. My wife was raised that way, but I really wasn't. So he was like, you're going to need that. And boy, was he right. He was more right than you could ever guess, right? And that was, not to get down that track, but that was God talking right there. Like, you're going to need this.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really cool. I mean, I just read something about something along that lines, which just popped in my head. To add on to what you said, is spiritual weapons, right? So the demon comes to attack you, and I don't care what walk of life you are, or what demons mean to you, or what faith you are, but demons are real. I mean, there's a negative force in the world, whatever you want to call it, right? And again, if you don't even believe in God, that could just be negativity, if you want to use that word. But I believe there's the devil, right? If you believe there's saints and sinners, you believe there's a devil, right? So I believe there's a devil, and I never thought of it that way till recently. You know, you need spiritual weapons to combat that. That can, for me, I'm a Catholic, that can be a rosary, that can be prayer, that can be going to church religiously, that can just be in solitude and quiet time, right? But you need weapons in place, and if you don't have them, I think you're growing a tree without roots, or not a very stable foundation. And then when you need to pull from something, there's nothing to pull from. And I think that's where the anxiety and stress and depression come in. Agreed.
Yep. And I think it might be Ephesians that talks about putting on the armor of God every day. And you got to do it, because being in law enforcement can really change your perspective on the world a lot. I mean, you see a lot of bad things, even in Kewaskum, where generally it's really good. Right. But there's stuff USA, happening. Right? But there's still stuff happening. And you need to properly work through that. And between my family and my faith, I think I do pretty good. Great.
What things do you have you had in training in leadership that's gotten you where you have? Or how do you lead people? And I knew you were going to pick my brain on it, so you can always ask me back. But how do you go through that? What are some things that have kind of triggered you on leadership?
Yeah, I'm really big on just trusting your people to do the right thing, right? And giving them opportunities to make decisions, and if they're not the right decision, to learn and grow from that decision so they can make the right decision moving forward. So I really try to just let people be successful, not micromanage them. My role, I look at as the chief, is to give my officers all the tools they need to be successful, the training they need to be successful. And if I do that, then we'll have good police officers who are doing a good job every day.
So you get customer feedback, right? The citizens of Kewaskum, primarily. That's not going to be positive, right? They're not going out there generally being like, you do a great job. So you're getting a lot of criticism, right? And they're really your customer base, which is really hard. How do you overcome that?
One really great thing about being in Kewaskum is that I do get a lot of positive feedback as well. Now, if somebody has a direct interaction and they're calling me or stopping, and they're probably upset about something. But I'll go to the post office, or I'll be at the bank, and those people will say, "Hey, you guys do a great job. Thank you for everything you do." So hearing that is very important. I try to remind.
So if you are listening to this podcast, right, and you know people like that, it makes a difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Taking a few seconds, being like, "Hey, thank you, I appreciate it."
Yeah,
and sometimes I think you think that it's condescending, like us, like guy's got here, he does a great job, but you guys need that, right? Because of
absolutely. I'll tell you a quick story, and I won't use any names, but I got a phone call just yesterday. I got a text first. It was somebody I know in town very well, and she said, "Hey, can I just talk to you about an interaction with an officer?" And I was like, "Oh." The guy immediately was like, "This what did we do,
Yeah, right.
Called her up, and she said that all she wanted to do was say that the officer responded to, there was a business, responded to the business, talked to the people that were there, and did a fantastic job. And she wanted to make sure I knew that. And we don't get those kind of calls all the time.
Right.
So, it's very impactful because we need to hear that. And I do try to remind our staff that there's, 4,300 people that live in Kewaskum. We deal with a very small percentage on a regular basis, right? There's the same people that we tend to deal with frequently. And we hear back from those people, right? And they're the ones complaining and they're negative. The other 4,200 residents want us to deal with that 100 people. And so they don't have to deal with it. So we got to remember that we're not hearing from the majority of residents.
I think
we're only hearing from a minority.
I think because I'm so verbal, people don't think I'm a math guy, right? I don't think I come across necessarily as a math guy. But I do a lot of math to kind of make quick assumptions, right? 4,300 people, 1%'s 43. 2%'s close to that 100 mark. Yeah, 2% is that, and I think sometimes that I probably need to do a better job even coaching our team. You have to all the time play the percentages. Mm-hmm. Right? And that doesn't make it great, but how often are you going to screw up? How many days are you going to give yourself a break, right? I mean, consistency factor, but what are the law of probabilities? 4,300 people, 2% of the people having a problem with the law enforcement, pretty small.
Yep.
Right?
I think that's such a big thing with leadership too, is like, because I know I've struggled with that before, where you could have 99 people tell you great things,
right,
but the one person just destroys you, and you're hung on just that one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and for some reason you take the positive, and I don't know what that is about human psychology. You take the positive feedback, and you don't allow it to soak in. You don't allow it to impact you. The one negative feedback, to some degree now, somehow in your brain, it's 100% the truth. Right? And it kills you.
Yep.
Like, what about the 7 people that said you look great today? Well, yeah. Huh? But the one person that said you didn't look great, that person knows what they're talking about. The other 7 didn't know, or didn't mean it, or weren't sincere, or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know why we're so quick to that.
Yeah, I think, well, we want to try to please as many people as possible, and you're probably saying, I'm frustrated when we didn't please everybody.
Right.
Part of the deal is we can't please everybody, but you want to try to.
Right. I mean, I do think there's a grain of nugget in all criticism, but yet you have to, every time that happens, you have to, again, convince yourself that you're working through a process and we're trying to get better, and again, reminding even yourself of the good things you've done. Yep. What are some of the great things you've done? Give me a good story.
Oh.
It could be your department. I know you're a humble guy.
The great things that we've done.
So just a fun, cool story. Again, quirky, fun, cool, different. What's like a kind of a cool go-to? Hey, this is what, and under my reign in 11 years, here's a good one.
I'll tell you something. One of the things I'm most proud of, if I can do that, and it's not a good.
Sounds right.
It's not a good cop story, but it's. I love community relations, and since I've been the police chief, it's been one of my top goals always is community relations. And we do a lot of Facebook outreach, and we make these silly videos that some people actually watch and enjoy, apparently. So we'll make more of them, I guess. So I'll probably post this on. Because you'll post it, so I'll share it too. And
so you did like what was your best one? Or are you getting to that?
No.
What was your best one? You've done some funny ones. Maybe Marcus can even bring it up.
The best video we did, the most views we've had is on our joke video that Officer Rosales and I did during COVID, dad joke challenge, and we had a little pie in the face thing if you laughed. That's probably garnered the most views and the most responses, but.
You did like
we did some lassoing stuff.
Like weird, they were like in high school graduation poses.
Oh yeah, we did a graduation challenge. That's our last Christmas video from last year, and it's got 819 people watched it. That's pretty good. The Halloween one was well received.
Yeah, there we go, 3.8 thousand. I think taking people's in leadership roles or perceived authority roles and making them human is a real thing. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really important thing that you guys intentionally do. And maybe it's not even intentional, but I think it's something that's a very positive thing. Hey, that's just a normal guy.
Yeah, and people in the community know us a little bit better, right? They're not when we have to respond and deal with something. Hey, I saw you on there. You're that guy. Like,
again, you're normal.
So you're more,
like I'm knocking on your door, but I'm normal too. Yeah.
So and I love doing these videos and they're fun to do. But like the the number one thing I'm so proud of is we started a summer school program that we do every year, and it's with the Kewaskum School District, and we call it the Junior Police Academy. And we probably started it in 2014 or thereabouts, and it really was just a way to get young people excited about law enforcement, especially in a day and age where we need people to go into law enforcement. So it's for middle school kids, not middle-aged kids, but middle school age kids. And it's kind of like a big show and tell, but we tour the police department and we show them all of our equipment, and we teach them why do we do some of the use of force stuff that we do. We go through radio communication, so we learn 10 codes and stuff like that. Then we have the SWAT team come in with all their fun gear, which is usually a favorite of the class.
Yeah, that's gonna work.
I've had Flight for Life come every year, land a helicopter, and the kids get to look at the helicopter and talk to the EMTs and paramedics from Flight for Life. We go down to the courtroom and we sit in live court while it's happening. We tour the jail with the kids, and it's generally a favorite class. At least I've been told from the school district it's a favorite class of the kids to pick, and it's so much fun to teach, and it's just rewarding because then I build a relationship with these youth in town as well. So I see them in high school then, and they're like, hey, Chief Bishop, and I forget many of their names, but I know their faces, and we still have that connection, which is great. And
yeah.
I've been teaching with Officer Cohn all these years because he was our school resource officer. Now we'll transition Officer Rosales, who's usually on these videos, is our school resource officer, so he and I will teach it this summer. Just a great outreach for the community. I just really love teaching the class.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. I mean, if you ever have to be in a Flight for Life, maybe you remember this isn't as scary, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of things that you go through are just the fear of the unknown in traumatic situations. Sewing kids to jail. I don't want to, Hollywood, whatever, our culture can say that's not that bad. Right? It's not a big deal if you go to jail. It's not a big deal if you go to court. I've been in court. Yeah, your hands get sweaty pretty quick. Not a place you want to be.
I think they're all pretty amazed when we're in live court and they see lawyers talking and there's somebody maybe in a jumpsuit. They're shackled together.
Yeah. It's real.
I tell them it's real. We got to be quiet, and it's amazing. Even though you always have the kids that are squirrely and they're always talking, right? And you got to yell at them every day. Hey, Joel, stop talking. But they get in the courtroom and you don't have to tell them to be quiet.
Yeah.
They're just amazed at what they're seeing.
And probably scared.
Probably, yeah. But
it's
so cool to see.
I've been in courtrooms and live sessions. If I'm in court or not, my hands get sweaty right away. Like I don't want to be here.
When you're testifying, it's pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
For us as well, it's pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But just to see the impact on those kids, it's really cool.
So I'll give you a chance because you haven't done it yet, and I've been hammering you. Do you have any questions for me? How it relates to Drexel, relates to what you do?
Well, I don't know just leadership in general. I always admired your employee engagement. You're always ranked one of the top workplaces for people to be employed at.
Number 28 in the country. Little shout out.
That wasn't even done on purpose. That was pretty good.
Right.
Pretty good.
Kicked you under the chair.
I would like, employee satisfaction is so important, especially in today's job market. And I struggle on, what can I bring to our officers? What can we offer? Now there's a union and there's some issues there too. But how do you have such good employee engagement? How do your employees, why do they enjoy working here so much?
I think we can ask Marcus that, who hasn't been here that long and knows as many people that work here as I do, so has a different perception. My perception, which may not be my reality, at least for me, I think it goes back to two things. We really try to you're hired and you are trained at the SHU, which is your first day, Supply Happiness University, and kind of talked about it all the time. We're supplying happiness, that's our mission. So first finding people that believe in the mission, then that want to work to the mission. And then within that, having core values and leading with your core values. Literally saying, hey, are we having fun? Or do we have a winning attitude? Are we balanced? Do we do teamwork? What are we living by our core values? But I just read a book. I'm reading a book right now, which is a phenomenal book. It's not called The Life of a Monk, but it's a guy that was a quote unquote normal person until he was 25, 26. Not that monks aren't normal. Went to be a monk for like 7 years. Came back into society, if you will, and then wrote a book on it and how it can relate to you. And he used the word, this is Eastern culture monks, dharma, which is living your purpose. And if you can find your purpose, and then, dharma is more, if you can find your passion, right? If you're passionate about that and you can make that into your purpose, you're going to live with such joy and happiness. That doesn't mean to not work on your weaknesses and not appreciate and respect them, but yet put the energy towards your strength. It's almost, and I've read that too, right? Like they always say, learn from your weaknesses, and make your strength your strength.
Yeah.
Right. So I do think we try very intentionally to find the right spot for the right person on our bus. And also quickly to move away from people, which means we do have a higher turnover rate than I think a lot of people think. If you're just not right for our culture, or potentially not right for that job, and if we can't find you the right job on this bus, we're probably going to let you go fairly quickly just because we don't see the right fit. So people are,
so
even
culture,
within Drexel.
Culture is what drives all of it.
That's all that is.
Yeah.
Everything we do is culture. Everything. I don't do anything about culture. Like people kind of wave that wand that they have a strong culture. A culture is a garden. It has to be daily, continually nourished. Marcus, I don't know if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, I would say it's all that, right? Culture is it's the onboarding with the mentors. It's, with Nate, I work in IT, and my boss is not a micromanager, right? Kind of going back to your point of trust and letting people fail and just learn from their mistakes and, all of it. There's so many things, great benefits and different stuff, but I think that at the core of it, it's, almost people kind of self-select themselves off the bus too, I think, at times here, because people are so positive and so many different experiences I've had prior to this. You don't realize how negative of a workplace you're in until you go home and you're just exhausted. And it wasn't that your work was stressful. It's just people just suck the energy out of you all day. And here it just, people are happy, and if you're not, you probably leave. So. Yeah,
we don't fake it. But the interview process is, I kind of believe, another thing I read a lot, 20% of the world is positive. Might be worse since COVID. When you do with the public. I hate to believe that, being a faith-based guy, but I always said, go to the grocery store, Latches, Piggly Wiggly, and actually start walking down the aisle. Who's giving you eye contact? Who's saying hi? It's not over 50%, I'll tell you that. So picking those people is the start. Are they a naturally positive person? And then building on that, one thing that we've worked on the last 2 years extremely hard is training. Something that I know law enforcement has always done, but training to the point of mastery, because I think if you're mastery trained in your passion and your purpose, man, does that feel good.
Yeah.
Man, I know what I'm doing. I'm trained to be one of the best around. I'm a sports guy, right? I have the best coaching. I have the best training. I can't wait to show off tonight almost. And I love it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to make mistakes and have bad games, but man, I know what I'm doing. But when you're not totally trained, which we failed for decades on that, then it gets to be stressful. I love what I do, but I wish I was better at it. So we had to provide these platforms for training that we've kind of ignored. How does that relate to you, what we said? What is, it's different for you, right? It's law enforcement, there's only 8 of you. But yet, if you, as a leader, I guess it's for all leaders, if you don't drive the culture, there's still going to be a culture.
Oh yeah, yep.
Right, sports teams. We don't talk about culture here. Team knows what to expect. We don't make it a big deal. They did that on training. They know what they signed up for. Well, that's your culture. And then now who's driving that? This back to sports. The senior on the team, the trainer, the assistant coach. Somebody's driving it. So if you're not hyper aware that you're the leader of the culture, it's going to take a life of its own.
It's a great point. And I think those negative voices end up driving that culture, because negativity will overwhelm so quickly and so easily, right? And especially in law enforcement, it's easy to be negative. We deal with so much negative stuff that if you don't have a positive culture, it can eat it up pretty quick.
And you can fight. The community can become negative. The 4,300 people, and you're we're fighting them. You know how people can be, right? And words matter, right? If somebody on your staff goes, well, you know how people are. Your job, and I'm not coaching you here, but your job would be
I'll take some coaching. That's okay.
Yeah, no. But your job's, I do that all the time. I got to coach you on your words because words matter. Yeah. I know you were just saying that. Well, that's how people are these days. But that's not what we believe in here. We think people are good overall. And when you say that, it sounds like us versus them. You know, the village won't give us anything. Hold on. I know you're just saying that, but what are you really saying? Where is this really coming from?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I think making sure people's words matter and what comes out of their mouth matters. How you treat when you knock at somebody's door, that matters. Your body language, your voice, right? And then that spider webs out. And then I think you guys do a good job. Yes, and you totally hit on it. Not only does negativity become overwhelming, but it also, any holes in communication, we always say, anytime there's not great communication, the hole gets covered up with negativity.
Yep.
Because that's all there is. It just ends up being rumor mills, half stories, half truths, which is always negative. But I'm a faith guy, right? Be the light of the world. One candle could take away all the darkness. So you can change the world just by that one interaction, that one transaction.
I would say, just jumping quick, that's another thing
sorry.
too, with you being so transparent, and I get like in the police world, right, you can't necessarily, but to your team, I think like the more transparent you are, where there's not all these hidden things, that's where those rumors things don't start, because it's like, well, I'm getting it from the horse's mouth here, you know what I mean? Like, I know what's going on.
Yeah, and it's so important to get going. Like, if you don't know what's going on, why you want your team to be all in, but if they don't know everything that's going on, how can they be all in?
Yeah.
They have to hold something back. So they don't really know what's going on.
And that's such a great point, too, because I'm actively, right now, trying to work on our communication as a team. And we can all improve communication, I think, all the time, right? But one thing I've never done well was communicate to the whole team kind of what am I doing? What is my job at the police department, right? They see me as, yeah, I'm the chief, hire them, and talk to them if they do something wrong, give them an accolade to do something right. But what does my day-to-day look like? And they don't really know. So it's, we're trying to do a monthly staff meeting where I can share like what's going on at the board meetings, because they don't know what goes on the village board meetings. What is the village board looking for us to do? And just being more transparent with our staff so they can have more buy-in to what I'm trying to do, really.
Yeah.
And
if
I just sit there and if I'm just the chief and I don't communicate with them, it's going to fall apart quick.
Well, and I think even expanding on that, something I maybe realized maybe 5 years ago, people would ask me how I'm doing, right? And I'm like, they don't care what Joel has going on, personal life, like, fuck, what do they care, right? But it came off as I was elusive, perhaps arrogant, for sure a hard driving guy, and kind of aloof. Even though I was very personable, you weren't going to break me down, right? But I just was like, they probably don't really care. Like, you know, Marcus, how are you doing? How's the family? And like, Joe, what's new with you? And I'd just be like, good, man, a good weekend. Right? And I could tell, now looking back, they were like, you know, I'm not in a circle, he won't let me in. I thought I was just rambling. But they want to know about my kids. They want to know about my personal life. And really importantly, I found out they really do want to know what I'm working on and what are our goals, what are our visions, how we're driving that bus. And then even with your staff meetings, things we've really been doing in our tacticals and our weekly meetings. So all 700 of us have a 1 hour weekly meeting with our department. And anybody can go to that, different tacticals in different departments. And that has weaved our company like never before. I was always an anti-meeting guy. Hey, who's got an hour with 8 staff members, second and third shifts, whatever.
Yeah.
Once a month seems like a lot. Yeah, if you're talking the whole time, it's horrible. But we call it opportunities or issues, right, Marcus? And every meeting has these opportunities and issues, and you're encouraged to bring them to there. And then let's talk about it. Talk about the root issue. And that's not me talking. The best meetings I attend, the best leaders I see in our organization barely talk. I don't do a good job of that. Barely talk at the tactical. You know, they're just letting people figure out their own issues. And again, talk about employee engagement, letting people empowered and actually saying, Marcus, I'm not just saying you have a voice. If you have an issue with the company, anything, fix it, please. Don't wait for the chief to show up and figure out what the problem was, which used to happen in our company.
Sure.
Joel, I'm so glad you're here today. I haven't seen you in 3 weeks. I knew you'd catch that. I'm like, dude, you were seriously waiting for me to walk around and catch that? Right? Oh my God, how much pressure for the chief? How much pressure for me when it's really not warranted? So just quick Kewaskum update for those still tuned in and then Kewaskum nights. You have a kind of a hole in communication and a kind of fusing thing, which might be uncovered a couple of nuggets here before we have to wrap up. You are building a new, I don't know what you call
A new municipal building.
Municipal
Yep.
building. Controversial.
It has
Anytime
been over the years. yeah.
Anytime, and how many years?
We started this discussion in 2019.
2019. And it's always controversial when the government spends money in a conservative town, or maybe even a liberal town.
Yeah.
Where should it be? What should it be?
Yeah.
Why do they need it? It's always been fine. Why now? So where is the need? Why is the need?
Well, the good thing is that our community has been overall very supportive, and I think they see that our building is very old. It is falling apart. If you walk in and look up, there's water dripping all over the place in the ceiling tiles.
That should be the next video.
Because it probably could be. I mean,
Honestly.
it used to be the fire department before they built the fire department, where the police department is. We have just outgrown the space beyond belief. I mean,
I'll take a time out. Going back to leadership and communication, I think people like everyone, municipal is a great example. Everyone in that building assumes the community knows the why, because we've been talking about it for 4 years. We're exhausted. We live there every day. I would guess if you polled the village of Kewaskum public, which I'm a member of, I bet 85% have no clue why they're looking.
very
Again,
well, yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
because you'd be like, no way, everyone knows, right? Because it's top of your mind. But I think, and I'm
Yep.
that way, right? Oh, I posted that 3 weeks ago, everyone knows. Oh, we talked about that in a meeting once,
Yep.
twice, 3 times. Again, back to what I read. I don't remember where I read it. The first time somebody hears you on your team is when they roll your eyes when you say it. That's like, I love that. Like, that's the first time they heard it. And being a youth basketball coach, we just put a flex offense in. Hell, I can barely run a flex offense, right? We ran it for 30 minutes, and now everyone's supposed to be expert of the flex. And the kids can't even run it. They're trying to do a one-on-one show. They're showboating. No, they just been doing it for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? So drilling it to the point they're like, this is exhausting, I'm so bored, is the first time they heard you. So back to the why.
Yeah, so the police department itself is really like 2 rooms almost. It's the main office. If you walk in the lobby and you see our administrative assistant, Patty, like that's one area. My office is off that. Our lieutenant's office is in a closet. It's the records closet. So there's filing cabinets and then his desk. But the back squad room is also the locker room. It's also where we have lunch if you're going to eat there. It's also where we do all our evidence testing and packaging and storage. The locker room's there, but females don't have any separate locker room space, so it's a shared locker room space. So what we really need, what I need in a police department is separate locker rooms for men and women, and then bigger garage space. We actually have 3 vehicles, but one has to sit outside. So bigger garage space, and then a separate area for evidence testing. So we don't need I'm not asking for the world here. It's not a ton more space, but we do need to not have lunch at the same table that we just tested the evidence at.
And I do think you got to remember, when you do something in a community, you are putting the face of the community out there, right? So if it's junk, it looks like junk, and now it kind of reflects on the community. Plus, you only do these things every 50, 70 years.
Yep.
Maybe
yeah.
100 years. So you kind of got to do it right. It's hard to do a Band-Aid on something like that. 5 minutes left. We got to wrap it up. Quick question, then we go to the billboard. We got about a minute for you to answer that. I think people get confused. There's lots of different plans, lots of different ideas. That's got to be very challenging of what to release to the public and not, because it's just preliminary, and preliminary can't just be released to everybody, right?
Correct.
Difficult thing.
Yeah. Difficult
thing, which I think a lot of people don't understand. They think it's closed-door meetings. No, it's just people spitballing.
Correct, yeah.
And it's hard to give half information out. Half information is very dangerous, more dangerous than being, not saying anything. Okay, one big giant billboard, probably in the 18,000 cars a day in Kewaskum. It's your billboard. Anything you want on it and why?
I'll probably quote our favorite quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, and just say, relax. Everybody's in such a hurry, right? When we see our road rage, accidents, people speeding, which leads to accidents and other problems, we live in a culture that we're just so busy, and we need to be everywhere now. We can't wait I can't sit at this traffic light for 5 minutes because I'm too busy and I need to get to where I got to go, and the phone's dinging and I got to check my text and all this stuff. We just gotta slow down and just relax a little bit.
But you know what's interesting? We have plenty of time to watch Netflix.
Yeah,
We have
yep.
plenty of time to scroll Facebook, Instagram. But yet when we actually have to do something, now we're all stressed out and busy.
Yeah.
You know, I love the word breathe, relax,
yeah.
be with God, be alone, do nothing, be bored. I think people don't want to be alone with their thoughts. So I think relax is absolutely great. And it's a good thing we're out of time because Marcus, our producer here, is not a fan of A-Rod, so we won't even go through that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a whole topic. We could
That's
do a
what
whole
I said.
show on that alone.
I said, thank God we're out of time.
Maybe I should have said our favorite quarterback. That's a good
I
point.
think God we're out of time.
We can edit
I was
that
like,
out,
thank
right?
God we're out of time, and Marcus is, we might have an...
What, Jordan Love? No,
we
that's
might
what
have
I'm
a law
talking about.
enforcement issue here. All right, very good. Well, thank you for coming on, Chief.
Thanks,
God
Joel.
bless. Thanks for
Appreciate
coming
it.
on. Yeah, thank you. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Episode